Hello and welcome to 11FS Spotlight. My name is David Brear. In this weekly show, we shine a bit of a spotlight on the best and the brightest in the tech and financial services industry to try and understand what is it that gets them going, growing, and what they really think the future of the industry will look like. On today's Spotlight, I am absolutely delighted to be joined by Louise Hill, who is a co-founder and COO over at GoHenry. Louise, I'm a fan, I'm a customer, I should say on this one. Both me and my son Josh and my daughter Ivy are big fans of all of the things that you're doing. But thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me. That's and great to hear you're a customer. I'm excited to be here.
Very good. Well, on today's show, what we're going to be doing is talking a little bit about Louise's career, taking a bit of a deep dive into GoHenry's new study, which is all about prioritizing financial education and the fact that that will add £200 billion to the UK economy by 2050, which is a pretty big target, pretty big opportunity to really sort of progress with. So, I mean, Louise, maybe why don't we start with a little bit of an elevator pitch for GoHenry. If anybody hasn't heard of you, what do you guys do and why are you doing it?
Right. Well, GoHenry is a prepaid debit card and financial education app designed for kids aged 6 to 18 with a very simple mission to make every kid smart with money. We launched in 2012 in the UK and provide tools to help kids learn about money. That's earning, saving, spending responsibly, giving, and so much more, all with parental oversight. We now have nearly 2 million customers across the UK and the US. And most recently, we launched Money Missions, which are in-app gamified money lessons designed to teach children and promote better financial literacy. They cover the full curriculum in line with national education guidelines. And we've worked very closely with teachers and financial experts to develop those, covering money basics, earning, saving, spending, borrowing, credit, investing, money safety. I'll stop there. There's lots more. That's about it.
Very cool. I mean, and you're a co-founder of the business and the COO. Tell us a little bit more about that role. I mean, co-founder covers multitude of sins, doesn't it, when you're starting a business and getting it going? But tell us a little bit more about what the COO does on a day-to-day basis.
Well, yes, you're right. I'm one of the co-founders. There were three of us who started the business. My background is in e-com and ops and digital, so I guess I lent on that an awful lot to help build GoHenry. And in the 9 years since we started, there has been a colossal change in my role and I guess how I spend my day. I guess that goes for any business as it grows. When we launched as one of the original three, we had to do everything between us. And, that on some days that was painting the office walls. Some days that was trying to figure out what financial regulations actually meant and what we needed to do. Finding seed investors, running the business, jack of all trades, really.
There's something lovely about that, though, isn't there? In those early, I think we've still got in the 11FS office a couple of shelves that I put up as the CEO as well, and it's quite amazing to look back on that period of time. I mean, what size of business are you now, GoHenry?
I think every month our head of people lifts her head up from the payroll file and tells me how many heads. We hit 266 heads in our October payroll.
That's amazing. I mean, the change and the growth of the business through those periods as well. It is it's amazing all of the processes you put in that you very quickly break when you grow through them, isn't it?
That's absolutely true. Yes. I mean, I started to say, I guess, about my role. Once upon a time, I did everything from you don't lick stamps anymore, but sticking the stamps on an envelope to finding funding. But now the day it's far more about hiring the right people, making sure our culture and ethos is in the right place, and making sure the teams that we've got, the really skilled expert people, are empowered to make their own decisions and lead their own teams.
So why found the business? I mean, it gives a bit more of that background. What was the driving sort of thesis that brought you guys together to go, do you know what? I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to start my own company. And you know what? It's going to be banking for kids. Like, what got you guys to that point?
Yeah, it sounds crazy when you put it like that. It started back in almost 2010 when we first came up with the idea, and it was all about realizing that our kids needed to learn how to manage money in what was becoming an increasingly digital world. So most kids leave school without any education about how to manage money. And I was watching my own kids, who scarily are now 23 and 20, start to use their iPods that they'd both been lucky enough to be given for Christmas, use my iTunes account and download music without a care in the world, and certainly without any concept that that was money that they were spending. And in joking with other parents about it, we realized that actually we'd left our kids behind, and we were all solemnly handing them cash on a Saturday, and yet they were watching us take out money at an ATM. Contactless cards had just arrived in the UK. People were shopping online, and we were still giving them cash, and there was nothing there to help them learn in a safe environment how to use money in a modern way.
I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? And as you say, I think people don't think about that unless you've got kids. You don't think about almost that, I think behind every, well-adjusted adult is a value of something. It can be value of time, it can be value of money, it can be value of money things. But how you instill that on your kids is really difficult, isn't it? And as you said, there's almost sort of no formal education construct of that. We all learn to count with 20p's and 5p's and pennies, don't we? But that's as far as the education overlaps with money, doesn't it? And money matters and how to manage that effectively. So was that hey, if we build this with our children in mind, with our problem in mind, then there's bound to be other parents, there's bound to be other children in this situation.
That was absolutely the fundamental concept, yes. And the more people we talked to, I think when we were testing the idea for the company, and when we were looking for funding, if you think that was back in 2011, that is a lifetime ago, really. And people very quickly fell into two camps. There were some people, tended to be people without kids, who were kind of going, why does a child need a card? What on earth are you doing? And other parents who, the minute you told them, other people who were parents, who the minute that you told them the concept would say, oh my God, my child's downloaded £600 worth of stars for their game that they play on their Xbox, or oh my goodness, my kid ordered 17 things off eBay last month. It was happening, and it was a problem that was growing and was there to be addressed.
Yeah. And so much of what I've seen, and again, as a user of your product, so much of what I've seen from you guys in the narrative around the product, it's not really just about having, the cards, and the kids love the card, and that's great. It's not really about the financial instrument. It is about all of the education and the process and the service that goes around that, right? Because, I mean, it's a similar sort of comment that happens on lots of different slices of financial services to a certain degree. I mean, you can argue a very similar point around financial inclusion. Just having a current account doesn't really make you included or educated about the system. It's the processes. It's understanding money. It's understanding waiting. It's and that's difficult, isn't it? I completely agree with you. As a dad with a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, my kids are growing up in a world of immediacy. You press everything that you want on Netflix. 15 minutes and food arrives at your door. There's almost no construct of waiting for anything. Therefore, saving or earning and buying when you've these are alien concepts to children that are used to just everything. I don't want to go down memory lane too much, Louise, here, but I remember recording stuff off the radio. Do you know what I mean? It's like the idea
press
of
the two buttons at the same time. Yes,
exactly. I got very good at it. So I didn't want the DJ. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But having that world has changed. And money kind of needs to keep up, doesn't it? Money needs to be relevant to today, doesn't it? And that's from your brands that you guys put out. That's really the feeling that I get.
That's absolutely right. I mean, you talked there about a tool, and it is a payment instrument. But if it were just a debit card, a prepaid debit card, it wouldn't be very much help. I've always been a firm believer in learning by doing, and I think an analogy I've used, probably overused now several times, is swimming. You can teach somebody all the theory you like about swimming, but at the end of the day, they need to get into the water and have a go. And financial education is actually the same.
Yeah.
Probably not as appealing to a child as the idea of swimming. So you have to make it interesting and fun. But they do actually need to have access to some money and learn to use it, as you say, in the modern world, with using a contactless card, ordering stuff online in a safe space. And actually, they need to make mistakes. They need to learn that if they spend everything they've got on their card, then when they want to buy something tomorrow, they can't.
Yeah.
They need to have those conversations. One of the great things I love about talking to customers about GoHenry is when they start telling me the stories. Because I guess that's when you truly feel that we are having an impact and delivering on our mission. The way that GoHenry can change behaviors. The child who has spent everything and then wants to go to the movies with a friend in 2 nights' time, and suddenly comes back downstairs and says, so if I cleaned your car for you, would you pay me £5? Oh, a little bit more. The going rate appeared to be in my house a few years ago. But, that idea that they do actually understand at that point that they need to earn the money because they can't spend it until they've got it, that's a huge step. And as you say, in a world of immediacy, that's a learning curve that needs to be gone through. And we believe firmly it has to be learnt by doing, not just by theory.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think I completely subscribe to your point. I think I've learned way more from all of the mess ups that I've done in my life than than just somebody sitting down and telling me how it should be. But that's that's what experience is, isn't it? So, and I mean, speaking of experience, I mean, what happened before GoHenry then? What got you to that point? Because I know our sort of viewers, our listeners, are always interested in what motivates people to quit a good job and go start a business. There's a big of optimism. There's a huge amount of craziness that sort of balances into that equation. So what were you doing before GoHenry?
I left university and went into retail. Was lucky enough to do a sort of graduate fast track program with the House of Fraser. And then I worked for a long time for a US consulting company across Europe. And actually ended up leading a project with Next when they bought Grattan, which was one of the big old home shopping groups, the great big fat books that used to be circulated around. And they wanted to build Next Directory on top of it. And I led a project providing 50 management consultants based out of a hotel in Bradford for the best part of 18 months. Giving them a lot of arms and legs and capable people to help them amend the Grattan systems and get Next Directory up and launched. And Next Directory was really a game changer, I think, for the e-com industry. That's where 2-day delivery became the norm. Before that, it was sort of waiting a couple of weeks, and then it went to next day delivery. And the idea that it was direct to consumer and not through an agent who was your agent who came and brought you the catalogue. So it was right at the forefront of e-com. And I moved from there to work with a number of the very well-known high street retailers who were beginning to realise that perhaps they needed to move into e-com and started to pick people out of the home shopping industry to help them understand what needed to change and how they would do that. So I was lucky enough to work with John Lewis and Next, as I've said, Debenhams, The White Company, a number of companies.
Fantastic. I mean, it's that experience, isn't it? The other industries that are particularly, more advanced than financial services in some instances to really what consumers' needs are and the impact of digital. It's amazing always to sort of see people's origins a little bit in terms of where they've gone. So maybe let's talk a little bit more about the research that you guys have put out then. So tell us a little bit more about it, because you're really sort of covering on that financial education part of it. And obviously as the features and the capabilities you've described, Louise, that you guys have recently launched, it's very much focused kind of above the financial instrument now. It's almost it's not just giving people the diagram of how to swim. It's being their personal trainer to help them do it, isn't it? So tell us a little bit more about the study, though. Why did you guys issue this?
blindingly obvious, really, when I explain it. I mean, our mission has always been, as I've said, help kids be smart with money. We've always believed financial education was an essential life skill. Pretty much everybody you ever talk to agrees with that. But actually quantifying that and quantifying the impact it can have on individuals and on businesses and on the wider economy has not been done particularly before. So we wanted to work with a company and commission a study that would seek to do exactly that. And we worked with Development Economics, the research consultancy, and have looked at exactly that. And I think you mentioned a couple of the stats in the intro. It's shown that prioritising financial education will inject an extra £7 billion into the UK economy every year, which when you extrapolate that out, that's 200 billion by 2050. And some other amazing stats. Brits who didn't receive a financial education as a child are more likely to be unemployed or earning substantially less today than those who did. Or one that hit home for me, people who received financial education are on average £70,000 richer in retirement than those who didn't.
It's crazy, isn't it?
That it's huge impact on life outcomes. On where people end up in life, how they manage with owning a home, with having a relaxed retirement, a comfortable retirement, with being able to pass things on to their kids. All of that, being money confident, has a massive impact on your journey through life in that way. And another one of the interesting statistics is, with financial education as a child, the likelihood of starting a business is 46%. It's 46% more likely you will start a business if you've had a financial education as a child. And again, extrapolating that through, that's 123,000 new jobs in the UK every year if we're doing that. Those things make a huge difference on individuals, on businesses, and on the wider economy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's scary, isn't it? I mean, that's terrifying. The impact. I mean, we all know a great start leads to better outcomes, doesn't it? But as you say, there are significant financial outcome changes. But how much do you think it is its expectations as well, almost with a broader horizon on actually how money functions and the sort of understanding of the principles, than actually people's expectations of money and expectations of those outcomes just sort of fundamentally changes, doesn't it? So, but I mean, why? I'm going to say this in the nicest possible way here, so don't take offense. But why do you care? Like, your product's aimed at kids. Like, why are you aiming at changing adults' lives in that sense, given your product is very much up the river when it comes to sort of children's education?
Because children who don't understand money and are not confident with money grow up into adults who are not confident with money. And, the whole fundamental ethos for starting the business came from parents who could see, who were trying to do their best for their kids and could see a hole. Yeah. And by plugging that hole, every parent is trying to do the best for their kids. And fundamentally, as a parent, what you're trying to do is give your child the best life chance. So I think it's just a continuum. If you give your kids the best life chance, they're most likely to turn into happy, successful adults, whatever that measure of success might be, not just money. But it's
that's
confidence.
Interesting, isn't it? With that's such a great, a great purpose. Like you say, your vision, your mission, kind of aligning to, really, you've got multiple customers within this product, haven't you? For you've got the customer being both the parent and the child, and actually, managing those two things or the dynamic around it, the feeling of control, or the feeling of, every kid wants to be an adult, don't they? So actually feeling like they're in control of their destiny on those things. But to focus on the long term, I mean, this is not normal for financial services companies, right? You know, financial services companies mostly focus on this year's profit, this year's setup, but that long-term view. I mean, why do you think it's fallen to the industry as that sense to really push this agenda? It feels like a lot more should be being done by the education system. I had Josh and Ivy's over Zoom parents' evenings this week, and it was one of the things that I said to him. It's like, how much are you guys doing about money education? And it's next to none. You know, like I say, other than using 20p's to learn counting, then that's it. You know, so why do you think so little is being done in the formal education program?
I'll start, I think, by saying I was a governor at the local secondary school for over 5 years, and the one thing that taught me is just how much schools have got on their plate in terms of what they are supposed to deliver to children. It's not just academic education; it's social education. It's everything, and I don't think it's one group that should be delivering financial education. That there's a lovely African saying that you've probably heard of, most people have, that it takes a village to bring up a child. And actually, I think that's very apt in this case. I think it's down to the schools, parents, industry like GoHenry, and government all to come together. And, you know, if we can understand that some of the numbers I've quoted today, the substantial impact that can have on the country as a whole, it behoves us all to get together and work on it as a team. Work on it in a joined up way.
It's interesting though, isn't it? I mean, my kid seems to know everything about the Saxons and the Romans, but no idea about compound interest, you know, and he's 9, so I'm not going to hold it against him. But do you know what I mean? It feels like there's almost a prioritization, like you say, the impact of this on the, you know, this is not just an economic benefit, as you say, the numbers are great, but just general people's happiness and well-being will fundamentally be changed by the feeling of control over these things is arguably more important than the money side of things. So, I mean, there's a lot of kind of misconceptions, I guess, when it comes to the, you know, what is important in that sense. So, do you think actually, when it comes to, you know, the financial education system, do you think there is more that we could do? Is it, to your point, is it I remember Midland School coming into my to my school with a clipboard and a pen, and a nice man talked to me about banking, but I'm pretty sure they just wanted me to have a Midland account. You know, like, actually, do you think it is a collaborative industry effort to really make these things happen?
I think that would be an ultimate goal. Yes, you know, there's all sorts of things going on in the space. I think what's been great to watch over the last 6 to 8 months has been the pace of conversation picking up, and more people talking about how important financial literacy is, and I can only applaud that. You know, the FT is running a fantastic campaign, financial literacy and inclusion, the Flick campaign, and that's a fantastic thing to see happening in the space. My bank is an organisation that goes into schools and gives financial literacy lessons, but you know, going back to what I said before, it needs to come from all directions, really, if we're going to try and reach everyone and make every kid smart with money. And we've tried to look at the best way we can play our part in that, and particularly with the launch of money missions, these gamified financial lessons effectively embedded in our app. It means we're the only company that offers kids and parents, but kids, the ability to learn both the theory behind money management with the money lessons and the practice. You know, they've actually got a payment tool, a prepaid debit card that they can use out there in the real world and set their savings goals, manage their real-time spend, donate to charity, and earn from tasks that their parents set up for them.
Yeah, I mean, talk to us a little bit more about money missions then as well, because obviously, I mean, when you know, when kids think about being educated, it's like a teacher and like a book, you know. But you guys have made these things incredibly interactive in terms of the way in which you disseminate information, but also the way in which they engage with, you know, the positive behaviour around that as well. So talk to us a little bit more about it.
Yes, it's taken us a lot of work. I think pretty much every team in the business has been involved in bringing it to market, and we've launched it in both the UK and the US. They are, this is a tongue twister to say, in-app, gamified financial lessons. When earlier on I talked about swimming and said, ultimately there's the theory, but ultimately you've got to get in the water and have a go. And I said swimming's far more exciting to a child than financial education. Well, I think if it were just lessons, I'm going to say old school style lessons, it probably wouldn't be terribly engaging. But Money Missions is there are animated videos, there are quizzes. It reflects the kind of learning that children have at school and have in the games that they play these days. So they go through lessons, they do quizzes, they earn XP points, they get certificates. If they're struggling or not confident, all of the journey routes are designed so that they recognize if the child's struggling a little bit or is not confident, then it will loop back and take them through back over in a different way over the points that they've struggled with. And it goes through celebrating the levels and stages that they unlock as they go. And you mentioned earlier that we have two groups of customers that we have to talk to, the children and the parents. And actually at GoHenry, we talk about four groups of customers. So we talk about the 6 to 10-year-olds, the 10 to 13-year-olds, and then the 13 plus, and the parents. Because if you think about how a 6 to 10-year-old is using money, thinking about money, wanting to learn about money, versus a 15-year-old, you immediately see that's vastly different. The way we need to talk to them is different. The way we need to present the app is different. So there's a massive amount of personalization in there to make it fit age and stage and confidence.
Fantastic. I mean, it's understanding customer needs, providing services that solve those problems. I mean, this is back to your e-commerce days. This is something we don't see in financial services very often, but actually the promise of the internet was using data, using digital capability to really interact with people in the way that they want to be. And it's I hope we see this trend continue, not just within child accounts, but within all different areas. I had the cabbie on the taxi and going into the train station on Monday pitch me a bank for taxi drivers, because actually, and why not these days? Because actually you can create really interesting service niches for all different slices of financial services, can't you? So, I mean, ultimately, what's the goal here? Because as you say, your business is growing, your user base is growing, your impact, I guess, not just from your your bottom line perspective, but from a societal perspective is increasing as well as your company gets bigger and bigger. I mean, ultimately, what's your long-term vision for GoHenry?
We've got an awful lot further to go yet, an awful lot more customers to reach. I had some stats shared with me a couple of weeks ago. I think we're now sitting at 45% market awareness, which is fantastic. But I also got given the stat that 13% of kids in the UK now have a GoHenry card, which is amazing. But we launched in the US 2 years ago. We're clearly nowhere near that kind of level of market share there yet, and so there's a huge amount more market to capture in the US. And then pick the rest of Europe, pick Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, pick anywhere. There are an awful lot of kids out there, and the vast majority of cultures have the concept of pocket money in some way, shape, or form, and need to teach their kids about money. So we've got a great many more markets that we would like to expand into.
Very exciting. I mean, that's some good foreshadowing there. Then I'll look forward to speaking to you again as world domination continues. But on that basis, there's always one question we like to leave people with, and actually it'd be great to kind of understand from your career, having worked both corporate side and now startup side, what would be the advice you would give your younger self?
I got asked the other day what would be the money advice I would give my younger self. And I couldn't believe the words coming out of my mouth, but they were put some money into your pension, start earlier. I did what I'm sure a great many people do, and sort of through my 20s and 30s thought, pension, what's that? I wish I'd saved more into my pension. Um, and in terms of businesses, that's a really interesting one. I've loved my entire career. I've been very lucky. I've worked with some great teams. I like being somewhere where I feel I'm making a difference. But it would have been starting my own business earlier in my career.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's never the right time to do it, but it's never necessarily the wrong time, is it? In terms of starting a startup, so
Indeed.
it's getting that shove sometimes to go and make it happen, isn't it? But all right, well, I'm afraid we're sort of rapidly running out of time, so we better wrap up. But Louise, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit more about where people can find the report, but also where people can find a lot more about GoHenry.
If you go to GoHenry.com, you'll find us. You will find the report, and you'll find all about money missions as well.
Fantastic. All right, guys. Well, that's all the time we have for you today. Make sure you follow 11FS. I mean, pretty much every social media channel at this stage, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you want to kind of find us, you can find us at this point. And if you enjoy the show, then do subscribe to the 11FS YouTube channel where you can catch this one again and every previous episode that we've ever done. I hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you very soon. Goodbye.